All right, numbers 4, 5, and 6 are all the same type of problems. So maybe if I show y'all 4, you can do 5 and 6, especially if you were in class yesterday. All right, so remember, first thing we have to do on these problems is find a VA, a vertical asymptote, and an HA, a horizontal. All right, how do we find the VA? That's the easy one. Y'all remember? What do we do? Yeah, just set the bottom equal to 0. All right, so I move over plus 2. It's a minus 2. That's where your vertical line goes. So negative 2, draw a vertical line, a dotted line. And if you would, draw that in a cone. Good so far.
I don't have another pencil. I didn't pass it along.
They're still coming around, Fish. All right, so what you do, Bailey just set whatever's on the bottom equal to 0, move it over, and that's how you get your vertical line. All right? Now let's do the horizontal. On the horizontal, all right, Bailey, here's the deal. It's either going to look like this, where one's got an X on top and bottom, or it's going to look like this, where you only have an X on the bottom. If it's this way, you only have an X on the bottom, it's automatically Y equals 0. Just write it down and go to the next one. If it's like this, Balaam, where they both have an X, you would do negative 3 divided by 1. You would divide the numbers in front of the X. So it's going to be one way or the other. This time we had an X on the bottom and not the top, so it's Y equals 0. All right, last step. We got to plug in our 4 numbers. You guys remember how we picked the 4 numbers?
Left and right side of the line.
Good. All right, so Balaam, what we do, we look on the left side of the vertical line. I'll plug in negative 3 and negative 4. And we also look on the right side. I'll plug in negative 1 and 0. Negative 3, negative 4, negative 1, and 0. You always pick 2 on the left, 2 on the right. Now just plug them in your calculator. Let's see what we get. So if we're going to plug in negative 3 right here, you got negative 3 on top, negative 3 plus 2 on the bottom. Plug it in your calculator. What'd y'all get? Somebody check. Is it positive 3? Is that right? Yes. Okay. Plug in the other 3 and we'll graph it. I get negative 3 over negative 2. All right. You plug this one in, Balaam, if it gives you a fraction, I want you to make it a decimal. So that's going to be positive 3 over 2. Make it a decimal, y'all should get 1.5. If y'all forgot how to make it a decimal in your calculator, I'll come show you or get somebody to show you 6 rounds. All right, plug in negative 1 and 0. All right, go. Did I mess up again? Okay, so on top is negative 3, and then we're going to plug in negative 1 plus 2, and it's giving you negative 3. Okay, well, I don't like the negative being out in front of the problem like that. So let's do it this way. All right, so let's go fraction button. On top is negative 3. On bottom, you said plug in what? Negative 1? Negative 1 plus 2. You get negative 3. Okay. Well, I hadn't done that one yet. So that was negative 3. All right, and then when you plug in 0, it'll be negative 3 on top. 0 plus 2. It's going to be negative 1.5. Check my answers, guys. Make sure we got the same answers. Bailey, we good? All right, so now let's graph it. Negative 3 up 3. Negative 4 up 1.5. Negative 1 down 3. 0 down 1.5. I got a curve on this side, and I got a curve on this side. Remember, it's always going to be curves. never cross the dotted lines. All right, so number 5 and number 6, I believe, is going to be just like number 4. Let me give it a quick check. Yep, 5 and 6 are just like 4. See if y'all can do 5 and 6 by yourself. If I don't need to show them, then we'll move on. 5 and 6. It's just like number 4. Anybody else need a color pencil? Let's get one passage back. All right, let's look at 7. La. Okay, you know why you can't plug in negative? Dotted line is on negative. You got to plug in 0 on the right, which is 0 positive. Okay.
Stop.
All right, let's go to number 7. Will, you got the rolling?
Yeah, it's rolling.
All right, number 7, we're going to start it off the same way. Troy, how do I find the VA on number 7? What do I do? Is that Troy? So that'll be x equals 1. Good, Troy. So I put a dotted line at 1. That's the same way we've been doing it. Easy stuff. All right, now, what's different about this one from 4, 5, and 6? Good. Good. All right, Balaam, this is what I was showing you a minute ago. I got an X on top and bottom. So what are we supposed to do when you got an X on both sides? You divide the numbers in front of the X's. So it'll be 3 divided by 1 gives you Y equals 3. So this is the only difference on 7, 8, and 9. You just divide your X's. All right, so Y equals 3 is right here, dotted line. All right, you guys give me the 4 numbers I got to plug in. On the right side, plug in 2 and 3. On the left side, plug in 0 and negative 1. What's going to be the answer if you messed up and you plugged in positive 1, which is where the dotted line is? You're going to get error. Several of you did that on the last one. You got error. You can't plug in the number where the dotted line is. All right, so let's plug in 2. On top would be 3 times 2. On bottom would be 2 minus 1. Y'all get me an answer on that from your calculator. What you got, Martha?
For which one? 2?
Yep.
6.
Martha got 6. Y'all check that. Is that right? All right, now we're going to plug in 3. So it'll be 3 times 3 on top and 3 minus 1 on bottom. All right, Martha, give me that.
I got 4.5.
4.5 is correct. Remember to make it a decimal so we can graph it. All right, when you plug in 0, your answer is going to be 0. I can do that one in my head. And for the last one, we're plugging in negative 1. So I got 3 times negative 1 on top, negative 1 minus 1 on bottom. Somebody give me an answer for that one. If it's a fraction, make it a decimal.
1.5.
Yep, 1.5. All right, y'all graph those 4. We'll make our curves. So that's the only difference on 7, 8, and 9. So 8, are y'all ready? Ready? All right, here. All right, so to find the VA, we do it the same way we've been doing it. You set the bottom equal to 0. Some of you guys are getting stuck here. All right, what do I move over? Positive 1, move it over to negative 1. All right, so now we divide it. Somebody divide negative 1 divided by 2. Tell me what you get. Negative 0.5. Okay, negative 0.5. How do I put my dotted line at negative 0.5? That's negative a half, right? Halfway between 0 and 1. So 0 and 1. Your dotted line this time is going to be right in between 0 and negative 1. So that's the first time we've had one like that. Some of y'all were a little bit mixed up. Negative 1 divided by 2. Not 2 divided by negative 1. Yeah, you got to do negative 1 divided by 2, and it gave us negative 0.5. All right, so that's your first dotted line. HA, they got the same. They both got an X. What do I do? Divide them, 4 divided by 2 is 2. All right, that one wasn't hard. But some of y'all had trouble plugging in numbers, so let's look at that part. All right, this time, how do we know which 4 numbers we got to pick? 2 on the right. Now, looking around, some of you guys plugged in like 1.5 and 2.5. You don't have to do that. You can. Why don't we just plug in 0 and 1? Aren't they on the right side of the dotted line? And on the left side, I'll plug in -1 and -2. So you don't have to plug in decimals just because your dotted line is on a decimal. Does that make sense? You can still just plug in numbers. Integers, 11.
Instead of plugging in 0, I plugged in 1 and 2.
That's fine. That's fine. It's going to be fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just wouldn't plug in 1.5 or 2.5. It makes it messy. So y'all plug in those 4 numbers, -1, -2, 0, and 1, and we'll check it from there. Equals 5x over 2x plus 3. All right, so 9's giving y'all trouble because it's got a lot of decimals. Set the bottom equal to 0. All right, we got to move plus 3 over. That makes it a -3. Now, what do I do to find my answer? -3 divided by 2 is -1.5. So, go to -1.5, and we need a dotted line up and down at -1.5. All right, what about the HA? What are we supposed to do when they both have an X? You divide them. What's 5 divided by 2?
2.5.
Okay, so it's y equals 2.5. So I got another decimal. I go up 2.5 right there. All right, anybody got a question so far? All right, now let's plug in points. Remember, guys, you don't have to plug in decimal numbers. I wouldn't. So on the right side, I'm going to plug in -1 and 0. On the left side, I'm going to plug in -2 and -3. For you guys who have already plugged that in, did y'all get decimal answers? Nope? Okay. All right, so y'all can finish that one. We'll go ahead and have our bathroom break.
Did we turn this in?
Fisher, I got enough to grade tonight, buddy. It's got an x squared. All right, so Balin, these are the first time we've had problems with x squares. So what we have to do is factor out the top when it's got an x squared. All right, so let's factor it. I know it's x times x. That's how I'll get x squared. What numbers can we times here and here that gives you 10? 5 and 2. All right, now let's think about it. When you add them up, Will, you got me wrong?
Yeah.
When you add them up, guys, it's got to equal the middle. So what do my signs have to be? So when I add these numbers up, I get +3. It's got to be +5 minus 2. That's the only way you're going to get +3 in the middle. Good? All right. All right, so Kaylee, Balin, one of these up here is always going to match up with one on the bottom. So RJ, I mark out x minus 2 and x minus 2. You mark out one on the top and one on the bottom every time you have a problem like this. What's the only one I haven't marked out? X plus 5. Y'all got to graph that by rise over run. All right, so Will, if I'm going to graph that, where do I start?
5.
Up 5. All right, Will, what's my rise over run?
1 over 1.
You guys know there's a 1 there, right? Understood 1. So Will says up 1 over 1. I like to make a bunch of points before I draw my line. All right, so what happens, guys, when I mark out this right here, this x minus 2, that makes a what? It's going to make a hole in the line, Balin. It's going to look something like this. You're going to have a hole somewhere because we marked this one out. All right, so to find out where I marked it out, bring down the one you marked out, move over -2. That gives you +2. That's where your hole is going to be. Go over to +2, follow it up, put a hole, and then everything else is a line. If it's off the graph, Allison, that's fine. All right, so check my number 1, make sure we're good. We'll do number 2, and then maybe y'all can do 3 by yourself. Minus x minus 12, x plus 3. All right, same type problem. I got an x squared on the top. So you guys try to factor that out. See if y'all haven't tried to factor one by yourself. Try to factor the top, see if you can factor it. Remember, one of them is going to be x plus 3 because there's an x plus 3 on the bottom. So you can go ahead and put x plus 3 in one of the parentheses if you want to. See if you can factor the rest of it. Now look, I know this has got to be an x because x times x is how I get x squared. What numbers can I times together to get 12 if one of them's a 3? 3 times 4. All right, what do the signs have to be? When you add them up, it's got to equal negative 1. Well, 3 plus 4 would be 7, so that won't work. So it's got to be 3 minus 4. That gives you negative 1.
Could you also figure out what signs need to be since negative 12 means they have different signs?
Yep, Levy's right. When you multiply them, they got to equal negative 12, so you know one's got to be a positive, one's got to be a negative. And look, if the 3's got to be a positive to match up with this one, then you know the 4's got to be a negative. All right, so Levy, which ones mark out?
X plus 3.
All right, so we bring down the one that we didn't mark out. All right, Levy, help me graph it. Where do I start?
X minus 4.
Levy says go to negative 4. Y'all put a point at negative 4. Levy, what's my rise over run? I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of points going up and down. Go ahead.
The hole's at positive 3.
Fisher says the hole's at positive 3. Let's check it. Nope, Fisher, watch.
How's that negative 3? It won't go to negative 3.
I'm going to show you. I marked out x plus 3. All right, so I bring that one down. Now, Adam, when you move plus 3 over, that becomes a negative 3. So your hole's got to be at negative 3. So let's go to negative 1, 2, 3. Follow it down. Guys, if it's off the graph, it's okay. All right, so maybe y'all can do number 3 by yourself now.